This moment did not find you by accident. There are days that pass without leaving a mark, and then there are moments that seem to arrive with unusual precision, carrying a quiet feeling that something is shifting beneath the surface. This could be one of those moments. Out of millions of videos, thousands of voices, and endless distractions competing for your attention, you stopped here. That alone is worth noticing. Sometimes life whispers before it speaks loudly. Sometimes the biggest changes begin with the smallest interruption to an ordinary day. There is a reason certain seasons feel different. You wake up sensing that something cannot stay the same. Old routines no longer satisfy you. Doors begin to close without explanation. Relationships change. Priorities shift. The things that once seemed so important slowly lose their grip. At first, it feels confusing. Then it feels uncomfortable. But eventually, it begins to feel like preparation. Many people notice repeating numbers during these seasons. One of the most talked about is 555. Some dismiss it immediately. Others become obsessed with chasing every sign they can find. Neither response brings real peace. The deeper question is not whether a number holds power. The deeper question is why your heart suddenly becomes more aware of moments that once passed unnoticed. Why does timing begin to feel so meaningful? Why does change seem to gather strength all at once? Why does an ordinary day suddenly carry an extraordinary feeling? That is exactly what we are going to explore together. This message is not about fear. It is not about predicting the future. It is not about promising overnight miracles or telling you that every coincidence carries a secret code. Real spiritual growth has never depended on chasing signs. It has always depended on preparing your heart. Sometimes a reminder arrives at exactly the moment you need courage. Sometimes a message appears because your spirit is finally ready to hear it. But before I tell you that, stay with me, because what comes next will completely change how you see this. There is something remarkable about periods of transition. They rarely announce themselves with fireworks. Instead, they arrive quietly. You begin questioning the life you have accepted. You feel a growing desire to become someone stronger, wiser, and more faithful. You start noticing lessons hidden inside disappointments. Even painful endings begin to reveal unexpected purpose. Looking back years later, many people realize the hardest season of their lives was also the beginning of their greatest transformation. Most people will never hear this, not because it is hidden, but because they stop too soon. They leave the journey before the lesson is complete. They mistake waiting for failure. They confuse silence with absence. They believe nothing is happening simply because they cannot see immediate results. Yet some of the greatest changes in life happen beneath the surface, where no one else can see them. Just as a seed develops roots before it breaks through the soil, your life may be growing in ways that are still invisible. That is why this conversation matters. By the time you reach the end of this message, you will understand why certain seasons feel unusually intense, why periods of waiting often come before unexpected breakthroughs, why repeated moments of awareness can become invitations to deeper reflection, and why your greatest opportunity may not be somewhere far ahead. It may already be unfolding around you, quietly asking you to pay attention. There is another truth that many people overlook. Transformation rarely begins when circumstances change. It begins when perspective changes. The moment you start seeing difficulty as preparation instead of punishment, everything starts to look different. The obstacle becomes a lesson. The delay becomes protection. The uncertainty becomes a place where faith quietly grows stronger. Nothing around you may change immediately, but something within you begins to awaken. That awakening changes everything. Perhaps life has felt unusually heavy recently. Perhaps you have carried questions that no one around you seems able to answer. Perhaps you have been praying, hoping, searching, or simply trying to make sense of the road beneath your feet. If that describes your season, then do not rush through the next few minutes. Slow your thoughts. Listen carefully. Some messages only become clear when the noise begins to fade. The number 555 has often been associated with seasons of transition and personal change. But the real confirmation is not found in a number itself. The real confirmation is found in the courage to become the person you were meant to be. Numbers can capture attention. They can encourage reflection. They can remind you to pause. But lasting transformation comes from the choices you make after that moment of awareness. That is where lives truly change. There is a powerful difference between waiting for life to happen and preparing yourself for the life that is already moving towards you. Preparation builds strength. Preparation creates wisdom. Preparation develops patience. And when the right opportunity finally arrives, those who prepared are ready to receive it. Perhaps that is why this message reached you now. Not because everything will suddenly become easy, not because every question will receive an instant answer, but because your next chapter may require a stronger version of you than the one who started this journey. Growth often arrives disguised as uncertainty. Purpose often hides inside ordinary days. The greatest confirmations frequently appear only after you decide to keep moving forward despite not seeing the whole path. If these words speak to your heart, welcome to the channel. This is a place where faith, hope, wisdom, and spiritual encouragement come together to strengthen people walking through seasons of change. If you want more messages that help you find clarity, peace, and purpose, subscribe now and become part of this growing community. Stay until the end, because the final sign is the one most people overlook, and it often appears just before life begins to change. Some of the greatest changes in your life begin with a feeling you cannot explain. There is a quiet kind of restlessness that words often fail to capture. It is not always pain. It is not always sadness. Sometimes it feels like standing in a room that once felt like home but suddenly feels unfamiliar. The people around you are the same. Your daily routine is the same. The responsibilities are the same. Yet something deep inside keeps whispering that life cannot continue exactly as it has been. If that feeling has been following you recently, do not ignore it. Many people believe peace means nothing should ever feel uncomfortable. Yet some of the most meaningful seasons begin with holy discomfort. It is the feeling that your spirit is stretching beyond the limits of the life you have known. It is uncomfortable because growth rarely asks permission. It invites you to leave behind what is familiar before you can fully see what is waiting ahead. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. The moment life becomes uncomfortable, they immediately assume something is wrong. They rush to recreate the old life they were quietly outgrowing. They hold on to relationships that no longer bring peace. They force open doors that have already closed. They spend months fighting against the very season that was sent to prepare them. There is a lesser-known fact that many people never hear. Researchers who study major life transitions have found that before people experience lasting positive change, they often go through a period psychologists call identity disruption. During this season, the old version of themselves no longer feels right, but the new version has not fully emerged. It feels confusing because the mind is adjusting long before the outside world changes. That truth carries a powerful spiritual lesson. Long before a new chapter becomes visible, something inside begins changing first. That is why your heart may feel unsettled even when nothing dramatic has happened around you. Perhaps you have noticed that certain conversations no longer interest you. Perhaps the habits that once filled your days now leave you feeling empty. Perhaps you are becoming more aware of the way you spend your time, your energy, and your attention. These are not always signs that life is falling apart. Sometimes they are signs that your soul is waking up. Many people pray for change. Very few expect change to begin by making them uncomfortable. Think about the seasons that shaped you the most. They probably were not the easiest seasons. They were the moments that forced you to become stronger than you believed possible. They taught patience when you wanted immediate answers. They taught humility when you thought you already understood everything. They taught compassion because you experienced your own weakness. Growth has a language. It rarely shouts. It whispers. It asks quiet questions that echo through ordinary days. Who are you becoming? What are you still carrying that no longer belongs in your future? What fear continues making decisions for you? These questions are not meant to condemn you. They are invitations. Some people mistake these invitations for failure. They say, everything feels uncertain. Maybe I took the wrong path. But uncertainty does not always mean you are lost. Sometimes uncertainty simply means you are walking somewhere you have never been before. There is another truth that deserves your attention. Closed doors are not always rejection. Sometimes they are protection. Sometimes they are redirection. Looking back across many lives, one pattern appears again and again. The opportunity people desperately wanted often turned out to be far smaller than the opportunity they eventually received after they were forced to wait. At the time, the closed door felt painful. Years later, it felt merciful. That is because human vision is limited. We see today's disappointment. We rarely see tomorrow's preparation. You may still remember opportunities that disappeared without explanation. A relationship ended. A career path suddenly changed. Plans you spent years building collapsed almost overnight. Those moments hurt. There is no reason to pretend otherwise. But pain does not automatically mean you were abandoned. Sometimes the greatest act of grace is being prevented from settling for something smaller than your purpose. This is where many people quietly lose hope. They mistake silence for absence. They pray. Nothing seems to happen. They wait. Nothing appears to change. Soon they begin wondering whether anyone is listening. If those thoughts have crossed your mind, you are not alone. Many faithful people have walked through seasons where heaven seemed unusually quiet. Silence can feel heavy. It can make ordinary days feel endlessly long. It can tempt you to believe your prayers have reached an empty sky. But silence and absence are not the same thing. A teacher remains silent during a test. A gardener works beneath the soil long before flowers appear. A builder spends countless hours creating a foundation that no visitor will ever see. The most important work is often invisible. That truth applies to your life as well. While you have been waiting for visible answers, invisible strength may already be growing. Patience, wisdom, discernment, compassion, resilience. These qualities cannot be purchased overnight. They are formed one ordinary day at a time. Here is the truth nobody says out loud. You were never broken. You were never forgotten. You were always being prepared for something your previous version could not yet carry. Read that again in your heart. Preparation often feels exactly like delay. That changes everything. Perhaps that difficult conversation taught you courage. Perhaps that unexpected ending taught you discernment. Perhaps that lonely season taught you how to hear the quiet voice inside your own spirit. Those lessons did not arrive to punish you. They arrived to shape you. Life often removes what is comfortable before revealing what is meaningful. The hardest part is trusting that the removal has a purpose. You do not need every answer today. You only need enough faith to take the next faithful step. That step may seem ordinary. Making peace instead of holding resentment. Choosing gratitude instead of complaint. Continuing to pray even when emotions tell you to quit. Showing kindness when disappointment tries to harden your heart. Small choices become powerful transformations. No one notices them immediately, but over time they quietly change the direction of an entire life. One day you wake up and realize you respond differently. You think differently. You love differently. You trust differently. The circumstances may still be unfolding, but the person living through those circumstances has already changed. That is one of the greatest miracles of spiritual growth. Before your situation transforms, you transform. And that changes everything. Because once your character becomes stronger than your circumstances, fear begins losing its authority over your future. there is one more piece of this puzzle that many people overlook. Sometimes the strange feeling inside you is not asking you to run toward something new immediately. Sometimes it is asking you to release something old, a wound, a regret, a false belief, an identity built around failure. You cannot fully receive what is ahead while clinging tightly to what should have been left behind. That release is rarely dramatic. It happens quietly, decision by decision, prayer by prayer, day by day. And once you understand that, the strange restlessness no longer feels like an enemy. It becomes a compass. It reminds you that your spirit was created to keep growing, to keep trusting, to keep becoming. And what I am about to share next, about why the number 555 keeps appearing during seasons like this, is something most people completely misunderstand. It is not the number itself that changes your life. The real meaning goes much deeper, and that changes everything. The beautiful thing about this journey is that it was never really about a number. It was never about chasing perfect timing or waiting for one dramatic moment that would suddenly explain everything. It was always about something much deeper. It was about the quiet transformation taking place inside you while life seemed silent on the outside. It was about learning that some of the greatest confirmations do not arrive with loud announcements. They arrive gently, one faithful step at a time. If you have stayed with me until this moment, then perhaps something inside you has already begun to shift. Maybe the questions that brought you here do not all have answers yet. Maybe the circumstances around you have not changed in the last hour. But there is a good chance that the way you see those circumstances has started to change. Sometimes that is where every new beginning starts. You began this journey with uncertainty. Perhaps you felt restless. Perhaps you wondered why certain doors kept closing. Perhaps you questioned why the waiting season seemed so much longer than you expected. You may even have wondered whether your prayers had gone unheard. Those feelings are real. They deserve to be acknowledged. But they do not have the final word over your life. One of the greatest lessons you can carry forward is this: silence is not the same as abandonment. Waiting is not the same as failure. Delay is not always denial. There are seasons when life appears still, yet beneath the surface, everything is being prepared for what comes next. Just as roots grow unseen before a tree reaches toward the sky, your character, your wisdom, and your strength are often developing long before the results become visible. That is why this message matters so much. It reminds you to stop measuring your life only by what you can immediately see. The most valuable things are often invisible at first. Peace grows quietly. Faith grows quietly. Courage grows quietly. Wisdom grows quietly. Then one day you look back and realize you are no longer the person who first began the journey. Perhaps the greatest miracle is not that your circumstances eventually change. Perhaps the greatest miracle is that you do. Think about the person you are becoming. Someone who responds with patience instead of panic. Someone who chooses forgiveness instead of bitterness. Someone who trusts even when every answer has not yet appeared. That person is stronger than the version of you who only depended on certainty. That person is ready for responsibilities that once seemed impossible. There will still be difficult days. There will still be moments when fear whispers that nothing is happening. There will still be seasons when the path ahead looks unclear. But now you know something you may not have fully understood before. You do not need to see the entire road to take the next faithful step. That one step matters more than you realize. It is easy to spend years searching for another sign, another confirmation, another message that promises everything will work out. But eventually there comes a moment when the greatest confirmation is no longer something you are looking for. It becomes something you are living. Your daily choices become your confirmation. Your willingness to forgive becomes your confirmation. Your decision to keep believing becomes your confirmation. Your courage to begin again becomes your confirmation. The number may have caught your attention, but your response to it is what shapes your future. Everything you just heard, you already knew. Deep inside. You just needed someone to remind you. Never underestimate the power of a quiet decision made with faith. History is filled with ordinary people whose lives changed because they refused to give up during seasons that looked hopeless. They kept showing up. They kept learning. They kept trusting. At the time, those small choices seemed insignificant. Looking back, they realized those ordinary moments were building an extraordinary life. The same can be true for you. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, choose peace over fear. Choose gratitude over complaint. Choose faith over doubt. Choose hope over discouragement. Choose to become the person your future is waiting for. You do not have to change your entire life in one day. You simply need to remain faithful with the next step that has been placed in front of you. Great transformations are rarely built through one dramatic moment. They are built through thousands of faithful decisions that no one else sees. So when life feels uncertain again, remember this conversation. Remember that closed doors can become redirection. Remember that waiting can become preparation. Remember that silence can become a classroom where your spirit grows stronger than ever before. And above all, remember this truth. Your future is shaped less by the signs you notice and more by the faithful steps you choose to take each day. Carry those words with you. Let them guide your decisions. Let them quiet your fears. Let them remind you that your greatest breakthrough may already be unfolding in ways you cannot yet see. If this message encouraged your heart, brought you peace, or helped you see your current season from a new perspective, I would love for you to become part of this community. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue walking this journey of faith, wisdom, and hope together. Leave a like if this message spoke to you, and share it with someone who may need this reminder today. Sometimes one simple act of sharing becomes the confirmation another person has been praying for. Before you go, read this one last thing carefully. This might be the most important message in this entire video. Do not spend your life waiting for the perfect moment to begin. The perfect moment often reveals itself only after you have taken the first step with courage. Trust the process. Stay faithful in the small things. Keep your heart open. Keep moving forward. Even when progress feels invisible, growth is still taking place. One day you will look back at this season, not with regret, but with gratitude. You will see that every delay strengthened you, every challenge refined you, every closed door protected you, every unanswered question taught you to trust more deeply. And the person standing on the other side of this season will be wiser, stronger, kinder, and more prepared than you ever thought possible. Before you go, remember this. The greatest confirmations are often recognized only after you have already taken the first step.